I'd like to welcome everybody to this evening's town board meeting of Monday, October 27th, 2025. We're holding this meeting in memory of Charles Zipparoli, sorry, didn't get that wrong. Charles Zipparoli was a former right-of-way agent at the Amherst Highway Department for 10 years. Our condolences go out to his family and to his friends. With that, I would ask everybody just for a moment of silence. And please rise for a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, with that, I would ask our town clerk, France Poth, to please call the roll.
Supervisor Copa,
Here.
Deputy Supervisor Lavin,
Present.
Councilmember Berger,
Here.
Councilmember Zuccalla,
Here.
and Councilmember Marinucci.
Here.
Okay, with that, the first item on the agenda are minutes, approval of minutes from Tuesday, October 14th, 2025. I'll motion those as they appeared.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, with that, we have some proclamations and announcements this evening. I'll turn it over to Councilman Zuccalla first.
Yes, welcome everyone. Happy Halloween. It is good to see you all here of your own free will. Trick or treat hours on Friday are 6 to 8 p.m., Friday, October 31st. Blah.
All right. It's hard to follow that up. Deputy Supervisor Lavin.
Great job, Mike.
Thank you.
So recognizing October as the Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we're going to close out October, but it is National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We ask everyone to continue to support awareness throughout the year. And tonight, Town Hall is going to be illuminated pink as we join the national effort to go pink for the cure today, tomorrow, and always. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And finally, Councilwoman Marinucci.
Thank you, Supervisor. So today, 8 years ago today, right here in the town of Amherst, Evelina Michael Schnell was born to my husband and I. And so we have the utmost privilege of getting to do a really amazing job and work on behalf of our town. But there are days that her mom is at work and doing hard things. So I thank my colleagues for this moment to recognize her specifically. Evelina's name was chosen very intentionally. First and foremost, her middle name is after my father, Michael, but her first name means light in life. And so our Evie is truly the little light in life of every room that she walks into. And so the town of Amherst will declare today Evelina Michael Schnell Day. And Evelina, you can come right up here. Take a picture with her. A quick thank you as well to my husband and the village that allows me to do all the awesome things, because they are going to run and pick up my middle daughter from cheerleading right now. So thank you to everyone who makes this possible, and for all of you for indulging me in this moment.
All right. How'd you spend your birthday? Listen at a budget public hearing. No. That said, we do have a number of public hearings this evening. First is Resolution 890, the first public hearing for the funding of the 2026 Community Development Program Annual Action Plan. I'm going to motion to open the public hearing at this time.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I'm Lori Stillwell, the Town of Amherst Community Development Director, and as the supervisor said, this is the first public hearing for the development of our 2026 Annual Action Plan for the town's community development funding. Amherst receives federal entitlement funds from HUD's Community Development Block Grant Program and the Home Investment Partnerships Program annually. The Annual Action Plan outlines how Amherst spends these funds. The purpose of this hearing is to seek public comment on requests for funding and public programming desired. All projects seeking federal funding must address housing and community development needs within the town and also be eligible activities as determined by HUD. Eligible activities under the CDBG program include housing rehabilitation and neighborhood improvements, development activities, public services, and public infrastructure. Public infrastructure improvements are limited to the green areas on this map, which are the qualified census tracts according to HUD. I know the map's a little bit small, but you can see it online if you'd like to see it further. On the home side of funding, eligible activities include homeowner and rental housing rehabilitation, activities that improve access to affordable home ownership, purchase and construction subsidies, and tenant-based rental assistance. In 2025, our federal allocation in the CDBG funds was $625,669, and we received roughly $832,000 in home funds. 7% of our CDBG allocation this past year was shared with the Village of Williamsville per our cooperative agreement. Home funds are also shared with the town of Cheektowaga and Tonawanda as part of our home consortium. Home funds are split evenly after administrative costs are taken out, leaving Amherst's share at roughly $251,579 for 2025. I know it's kind of hard to see on the right-hand side of the slide there, but those are our 2025 activities we've conducted as part of this program. They include things like the homeowner rehab program, first-time homebuyer assistance, child and family services for domestic violence victims, Meals on Wheels Cook for the Senior Center, homeowner weatherization, fair housing and foreclosure counseling, home ownership classes, historic preservation of the meeting house, demolition of blighted properties, and the senior van and ADA improvements. And also there were sewer improvements as well. For 2026, we are anticipating level funding. I've been watching what's happening at Congress and where the FUD bill is at, and both the House and the chambers are seeing relatively level funding. So we're being optimistic and hoping we're gonna get level funded. So at this time, the town is seeking public comments for program funding for the 2026 program year, and our comments are due by November 10th. Lastly, I just want to do a quick review of our adoption schedule for the plan. Following the close of this public comment period, a draft of the action plan will be made available on December 18th, beginning a second 30-day public comment period. The plans will be available for public review in the town's libraries, planning department, town clerk, village hall, and also online under our community development page of the town website. And this slide has some typos on it. All of those dates are supposed to say 2026. So think about that when I go over it. A second public hearing will be held on the draft action plan at the second town board meeting in January when that's scheduled. And then the town will have an opportunity to respond to comments received and put out a final action plan before the board for approval by February 15th of 2026. Once approved, the action plan will be submitted to HUD for their review and approval. So citizens can offer oral comments tonight or submit written comments to the Town of Amherst Planning Department by mail or in person through November 10th. And before I move on to public comment, I just want to plug our housing rehabilitation program. This is the town's most popular program. It offers 0% loans for house repairs up to $30,000. It sits as a silent lien on the house against the equity of the house. It does not need to be paid off until there is a transfer of title, so it accrues no interest. Eligible households must make less than 80% of area median income, And all the information is on the website under the community development section of our webpage. I'm plugging it right now because typically there's a 6-month waiting list, and there is no wait list right now. So we can take your application right away. That's it for me.
All right, thank you. Questions or comments from the town board first?
I just quickly like to say, again, another great year by you and your team. I love this funding, and I love the ways that you innovate and continue to make this usable and make our Amherst more affordable for our residents. So I thank you for your work on this. Excited for another year, and fingers crossed flat funding.
Thank you.
Anything else? Questions, all right, comments or questions from the audience?
Matt Plunkett, North Hill Drive. When I was here 20 years ago, or however long ago it was, that program was underway. And it did a lot of great things for the town back then, and it does a lot of great things for it now. It's a program that's well worth it. It'd be nice if some more money could be thrown into it, but I know we get what we get and share with others, and I guess that's a good thing too. But it is a great program, and they've rehabbed a lot of houses and done a lot of good things for people in the town over the years.
Okay, thank you. Anything further? Seeing none, I'm going to motion to close this first part of the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. All right, there's 2 remaining public hearings. This is the third of 3 public hearings on the CIP and the Town of Amherst 2026 budget. So I'm going to first open Resolution 850, the Capital Improvement Program, or CIP 2026 to 2031 public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm going to simultaneously open Resolution 851, Town of Amherst 2026 budget public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So it's the third time I've done this presentation. We have this year. It's always a complicated budget with a lot of lines. Everybody offered to let me do my recorded version of this, but when your pause words are and it's hard to listen to your own voice. So I figure I'll just do it myself. Let's start with where we are. So we're under the tax cap, and we have an increase in our tax levy this year. That increase is spread across multiple funds. It includes our fund breakdown. If you haven't never seen it before, the lion's share of our funding goes into our general fund or our A fund, but we have a lot of other funds as well. Not all of the Amherst taxpayers pay into each fund. When we show you how we generate what we anticipate in terms of a tax rate, it's a blended rate meant to capture the majority or capture an average of what people will be seeing. This year, it is a very, very modest drop, but it's really a flat rate. It's a change of 32 cents or 0.02% in the rate to the average taxpayer or the average household. And the reason that that's possible in spite of a levy increase is because we have had a significant amount of growth. And I'll get into the growth in a minute. When you look at it, and we look at revenues, where we see our revenue lines and what's happening in terms of town and village share. Village share for people who live in Williamsville, they don't participate in the B fund or the sewer fund, and they don't participate in some of those. So they have a village tax that they pay separately to the village of Williamsville. So that's removed or is not part of an overall. They don't pay into each and every single fund, as well as some people live outside of sewer districts, or some people live in a fire district that's different from another fire district. But overall, we had growth in assessed value, $83,608,886. That's really continuing a trend of property value, new property value coming online that we've seen through a lot of work in terms of economic development and redevelopment activities. We are this year again staying above our self implemented 10% fund balance threshold. So we'll again plan to return or keep more than that stipulated 10% in fund balance. Where we spend money as a town, again, if you look at the breakdown, personnel services are about 36.5% of our overall spending. That's basically everything having to do with our salaries and our direct pay or indirect pay. Our benefits, which include our insurance and retirement, make up another 25%. Fixed assets at 1.25%. Contractual is about 17%. Debt makes up about 13% of our overall budget. So that if you look at this another way, this is my projected revenues, non-tax revenues for the year. And I had a couple questions come to us that were related to revenues and revenue projections. And I do teach E&D 313, which is a local government class at UB's planning school. And I have some notes that I talked about when we were talking about revenue projections. So I thought I'd just share a couple of ways that we get to our revenue projections. So the first thing we do is obviously look at historical data, identifying patterns and seasonal variations. So for instance, ICE revenue in 2025 is down in part because our feature rink has been down the entire year for replacement of our refrigeration system. Last year and the years before, we had seen some varied income from that facility because we had that feature rink going down at different times with refrigerant leaks. So this year we're able to project full with the feature rink open in the next year. And those are the types of historic tracks and trends that we look at. So we look at current trends, and then we also look at revenue sources and potential changes that might be happening. So in terms of license and permits, fines and penalties, grants and federal state funding, we're obviously watching those throughout the calendar year. When we estimate a historical average for rates, right, we kind of look back 4 years, 3 years, 4 years, in some case 5 and beyond. And then we look at factors like inflation and policy changes or any new revenue initiatives that may have happened with regards to some of these revenue lines, and we incorporate changes. So for instance, in 25, we implemented a new set of permit fees. Those permit fees are being felt for the first time with what the effect they have on buildings in the 25 budget, but now we can project into 26 with a little more certainty, as well as anticipated changes in activity levels, which I'll get into in a moment. So we try to avoid overestimating. I apply a fairly conservative estimate in most cases. We talk to relevant departments, especially like our IDA and the planning department, building department. And then we ultimately really spend a lot of time monitoring, revising that. And so when it comes to like building permits, for instance, right, we look at the total number of permits issued annually, and we try to figure out where we're going to be ahead of that or less. And then what are the quality of the permits coming forward? In other words, are we seeing larger permits because of larger facilities? What is the trend telling us? What impact of economic cycles and development booms might we see? So when we assess projects this year, We're looking at projects on potentially on Worley, on the Boulevard Mall site, 716 Sports at the old Gun Club, Muir Woods, next phase. There's some remaining components there. Renovations at the Weinberg campus after that goes through its sale, as it's dealing with its bankruptcy proceedings currently, and then Main Street and South Forest. So some significant projects that carry larger permits in terms of their types, but we also expect to see all of the tenant build-outs for Station 12 happening. So then we look at, we adjust policy for fee changes, rate increases or decreases. We look at, as I mentioned earlier, we looked at the issuance rates, but we also try to look at ahead at our development pipeline. And then we look at what the market conditions currently say. And then we'll prepare multiple scenarios. So when you look at the market conditions, right, the market conditions usually mean how eager our developer is going to be to spend. And if you're talking about somebody like Ellicott Development, or you're talking about somebody coming in and repurposing Weinberg, a lot of that has to do with where the Fed puts interest rates. But we also have to estimate things like sales tax revenue and mortgage tax. With mortgage tax, again, we're evaluating interest rates, and we're looking at historical rates prior to the interest rate climb in 23 and 24 and where we had been performing. We think we're fairly conservative with where we think mortgage tax could go. But we also have to talk about sales tax, and sales tax revenues can be a little bit tricky at times. So you can identify seasonal patterns and trends, but we really get into breaking down the data by sectors. And in this case, with a planned low interest rate or a planned interest rate reduction, we expect to see increases in construction and vehicle purchase, which carry larger gross dollar values and larger tax with them. So then we look at some economic factors like local developments, new business, and tourism in Western New York area. We have to acknowledge the 2025 fall off in Canadian tourism and Canadian shopping. We have to then try to figure out, okay, based on where that is, where do we think sales tax could rebound to? So sales tax has been, in Amherst, our sales tax revenue has been fairly consistent given the fall off of Canadian volume in the Western New York market. So we're really looking at the construction and auto industries, and then assuming we get into a later 26 increase in some of that Canadian tourism coming back to market. So we're also, as we forecast all of that, we try to build a couple of strategies. We have conversations in the budget meetings about moderate growth rate, about strong rebound and slower growth rates, and what each one of those will look like. And we have to monitor those. You monitor sales tax and you monitor those rates through your budget year. And then if you need to, you take actions in your expense lines. In our case, we did see some potential shortfall in 25 as we hadn't seen the auto or construction markets return to their full strength capacity yet. And as I mentioned, the Canadian drop off. So we took offsetting action in our expense lines to try to account for that earlier in the fall. So that's where some of the projections come from. And again, you get to a balanced rate. You try to get a balanced rate as close to zero as you can, growing your levy so that you have the ability to keep up with some of the changes in personnel costs and some of the changes in inflationary indexes. So this is the third of 3 public hearings. The first was the 14th here at Town Hall. The second was the 24th at the Senior Center. And this is the third tonight on the 27th. So I would will anticipate closing the public hearing tonight. However, the budget comments at amherst.ny.us As always, you can mail to us at Town Board 5583 Main Street, Williamsville, New York 14221. And those will stay active. We always take comments. So then the other piece of the puzzle that we've been doing this now for 2 years in a row, is we try to do a debt overview presentation. This one's prepared by Linda Ewell, our Director of Finance. We did this in conjunction with Harris Beach, our bond counsel. So it's, for those of you who've not seen it, it's probably riveting because there's a lot of text on the screen. But I think it's important to talk about how bands and bonds work. So bond anticipation notes, or bands, are short-term financing, typically for 1 year. A project can be kept in a band or rolled over for maximum 5 years, with financing required each year. Bonds are long-term financing, typically 10 to 40 years. The maximum term of financing is determined by the period of probable usefulness. Once a project is rolled into a bond, the principal and interest payments are set for the term of the bond. Bonds can be refinanced under certain circumstances should interest rates decline. The maximum period a municipality can finance an object or purpose through debt is known as period of probable usefulness, or PPU, which is determined by by New York State local finance law. So the town bond authorization process, town establishes its capital improvement program, or CIP, each year in conjunction with the budget process. When a department is ready to move forward with an action, a MAP plan and report, or MPR, is submitted to the finance department for review, and then to legal department for processing. The legal department coordinates with bond counsel. In our case, it's Harris Beach PLLC, who provides a bond resolution for placement on the town board agenda. One of several processes may be followed depending on the project. Projects with a PPU of 5 years or less become effective immediately upon approval of the bond resolution by the town board. Projects within a special district requiring a public hearing become effective after the public hearing has been closed and upon approval of the bond resolution by the town board. Projects with a PPU of over 5 years, not in the special district, become effective after a 30-day permissive referendum period, which begins the day the town board approval of the bond resolution. All bond authorizations must be approved by a supermajority, 2/3 of the board's voting strength, or in our case, of 4 board members in the case of the town of Amherst. Borrowing process. So the town typically issues debt annually in a single borrowing in the fall. The larger projects which require earlier financing or a band may be issued earlier in the year and then rolled into regular fall borrowing. Comptroller's office works in town's municipal advisor, Capital Markets Advisors LLC in our case, and the town's bond counsel, Harris Beach PLLC, on finalizing the town's official statement, which outlines the borrowing. A credit rating is for issuance is obtained from Moody's Investors Services Incorporated. The town's 2024 bond rating was AA3. It continues to be that in 2025. The borrowing is put out to market by municipal advisor. The town closes on the borrowing typically in November. Projects with a 5-year PPU are typically kept in a short-term financing or bands for the life of the borrowing. Projects with longer PPUs are initially issued as short-term debt or bands and then rolled into longer-term debt or bonds. Typically held in bands for 2 years and then rolled into bonds, may be held in bands for shorter or longer periods of time depending on what is projected for interest rates. Infrastructure projects such as road, water, sewer may be bonded for 1 year or in year 1. The town has the power to contract indebtedness for any town purpose. The principal amount of debt cannot exceed 7% of the most recent 5-year average full valuation of taxable real estate of the town. This is subject to certain exclusions and deductions such as water and certain sewer facilities. The town's constitutional debt limit as of 12/31/24 was 17.18%. A total less exclusions of $176,960,454 with a debt limitation of a little over $1 billion. The estimated constitutional debt limit at 12/31/25 is 16.62%. A total debt less exclusions of $186,132,235, and a debt limitation of about $1.1 billion. So when we talk about debt, a lot of times when we're talking about our projects incorporated into a capital improvement program. In this case, it's 2026 to 2031. We project to 2031 to schedule debt so that we have some idea of what could hit in different years. Two, to give our credit rating agency, some idea of what's coming. And three, be able to plan projects. CIP identifies and prioritizes large capital projects, their costs, and funding sources. It follows the town's debt management policies, implements the comprehensive plan and public facilities plans. Generally involves physical improvements with project costs in excess of $100,000. It involves new facilities or major repairs. It is not intended for routine maintenance. The town board is sole authority for adoption and amendments. There is a CIP review committee. It's made up of the supervisor, the planning board chair, the comptroller, director of finance, the town attorney, town engineer or engineering department designee, planning director, director of economic development, and planning staff to assist with process and organization. The CIP review committee discusses progress on the status of approved 2025 projects. In some cases, projects get dropped or canceled. In some cases, projects might get advanced to fill those spaces or not, depending on how different departments are handling their capital projects that year. Departments submit new projects requesting program aid from 26 to 31. We do project out to 31. 2026 and somewhat 2027 tend to be the more realistic projects or things that have a lot more depth to them in detail. And then the later out we get, the more they kind of facilitate or accommodate a little bit of a wish list. Committee reviews and evaluates new project requests over several meetings and formulates a recommended CIP. Supervisor then submits the recommended CIP to the town board with a budget. Town board reviews the recommended CIP during public hearings. The town board adopts CIP with town's operating budget. The 6-year program for 2026 to 2031 then includes 63 projects with a total bonding value of approximately $87 million. The amounts proposed to be funded in 26 include $22.7 million in long-term bonding, and are matched by other funding, including federal, state aid, or federal and state grants, and private sector community benefit contributions to the tune of $13.7 million or almost $13.8 million. That's significant because it increases our total project capacity to $36.5 million for the year, and we're grateful for all of the state and federal funding we get as well as the community benefits that come from direct projects. Recommended CIP bonding for 2026. The lion's share this year is in the water pollution control facility, which I'll get into in a moment. Second is paving, transportation, and vehicles, and then recreation and parks. This is just kind of a summary of some of the infrastructure maintenance, repair, and upgrades over the past 5 years. 26 and 25 represented a major set of projects in the sewer treatment plant. 24 were major projects in the sanitary sewer system. We've done well by trying to keep up after those, but inevitably we have aging infrastructure and that needs replacement. I'm not going to go in through the detail that our town engineer Jeff Burrows did on this. But one of the infrastructure components that we focused on last year and this year is the oxygen separation system at our sewer treatment plant. That project is a 40-year-old cryogenic oxygen separation system. We have had that system start to degrade and have had to buy supplemental liquid oxygen, which is very expensive. So it has started making an investment last year. And last January actually adopted bond resolutions for last year and this year, which are bond authorizations, which allowed us to spend money to replace that system. So in 25, when I say last year, I mean 25, the current year that we're in. This year, we've been focused on having that plant created and manufactured, and next year will be about implementation and incorporation into our actual plant itself. This other projects include investments in the North Forest Pool and park renovations. We plan to work on bring that facility up to a contemporary set of upgrades. Our investment is matched by a splash pad grant from Senator Ryan and a playground grant from the Jolly Boys. We're very grateful to both entities. As well, in this year, this CIP year 26, our hope is that we will resume replacement of our playgrounds. That took a pause once the state stopped issuing or stopped using the state bid lists that normally had the sole source contracts that are out there, had some question with regards to the state comptroller's findings as to how we could purchase off of them. And so we look forward to resuming our playground renovations projects this year. So that is the 2026 budget and the 2026 to 2031 CIP. I will ask our town board first if there are any questions or comments that they have yet to. Okay. With that said, I would invite members of the audience to please come up and share your questions or comments relative to the CIP or to the budget. And as always, I'll just ask everybody to state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Good evening, Supervisor Colpa, Deputy Supervisor Lavin, Councilwoman Marinucci, Councilwoman Berger, and Councilman Zuccalla. My name is Andrea Morganti, and I reside in Gettsville. I'd like to continue with my questions regarding the proposed 2026 budget, but thank you, Supervisor. You have cut my presentation down quite a bit by your explanations tonight, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much. But the one area where I am confused is the budget mortgage revenue for 2025, which was $3,130,000, and the 2026 budget projects a 15.17% increase to $3,604,948. You indicated that this was because of financing opportunities, and I don't understand that statement. I'm sorry, it just went past me. For the record, Amherst residents should be aware that the town's total outstanding debt, when all the exclusions are counted, is $203 million, and not the 186 figure that some sources cite. The lower number omits stated aloud exclusions for items like water and sewer projects, but these are real obligations that contribute to the town's full fiscal picture. It's important to communicate the true scope of our municipal debt to ensure transparency and informed decision-making by our community. This information is available in the bond disclosure document. Now, the adopted budget calendar indicates that the 2026 budget may be adopted on either October 27th or November 10th. Supervisor Colpa, Councilwoman Marinucci, Councilwoman Berger, Deputy Supervisor Lavin, and Councilman Zuccalla. As an Amherst resident, I am respectfully requesting that each of you endorse that a special meeting be convened to approve the 2026 budget before the November 4th election. Doing so would demonstrate good faith to the Amherst residents and reinforce that the budget being presented is a genuine and transparent representation of how their tax dollars are being spent. Now, as a side note, I just want to bring to your attention that the Friday budget hearing video without the transcript was not made available until 3:13 p.m. today. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm sorry the video wasn't published. I don't do that directly, but my understanding is now online. So I apologize for the time that it took for that to make it to our online sources. So regarding the mortgage tax, so the way that mortgage tax works, right, is if you look at it, mortgage tax could be on properties that are sold and purchased with new mortgages or on refinance mortgages. And what we did with mortgage tax is a lot of trend analysis. We actually went back multiple years beyond COVID years. So we tracked back to I think about 2016 or so, and we looked. And what was happening is we saw a trend that was pointing to us having mortgage tax in some cases, a lot of cases, in excess of $4 million. In some cases, in excess of $5 million. So then we tried to look at what the fall off was in 23 and 24, and what we saw was a direct relationship between federal interest rate increases and the amount of mortgage tax that we collected. So in other words, as the federal interest rates increased, we saw people doing less in terms of refinance. So obviously, why would you refinance in a time, a period of high interest? And so this year we felt comfortable increasing the projected mortgage tax. But there's other things that we, decreased. And some of the decrease came in terms of like interest earnings, because our interest earnings are also tied to federal interest rates. So those are the types of historic data and trend analysis that we take on. Regarding the budget process, the town budget does lock in officially on November 20th. It's a supervisor's budget that can only be altered via amendment between now and then. I'm not going to speak for the board, but I do think that there's a lot to try to deal with. And as we saw last year, sometimes we'll find some small changes in special districts or in the general fund. For instance, I will admit I missed a stipend in our clerk's office. It was a $3,000 change. That has to be amended. That is less than the amount that we have in contingency. So the contingency or our buffer amount would offset that. But those are normal amendments that have to be made. And those types of items are why we've traditionally held our budget open, not to change. I think everybody on this board is very proud of the fact that this year we're returning, a zero rate increase and keeping it flat. So I wouldn't anticipate, nor do I think there would be any support for a change in that regard. And with that, I'll leave it for further questions.
I've been trying to get a hold of you for about 2 months now. First time here.
State your name and address for record.
It's Bonnie Berry, and I live on Ivyhurst in Eggertsville. And I bought the house on August 12th, but I didn't move in till about 2 weeks ago. And I have 3 foot of water in the basement. I called up Roy's before that, and I paid Roy's $11,000. And the engineering department came there and okayed the work he did, and that was before it flooded. Now I'm stuck with water in the basement. I shouldn't say water, sewage.
Okay,
I'm wondering if you can do, I've been trying to get someone to help me, and they,
okay. So We can connect you to our building department if you haven't spoken to somebody in our building department about that. I would.
I went over to the engineer's office because I kept trying to get 4 people from the engineer the
If you would give
plumbers.
if you would give your contact to our attorney, that will make sure that you're in contact with our building department specifically, and they need to come over and do an evaluation.
Well, I went to the plumbers here and they all laughed.
Okay,
And
I
live alone
apologize
and
for
I'm
that.
77 years old.
Again, I would just tell you, if you give your name to the town attorney, then we'll follow up with you directly.
All right.
Okay.
Good evening, Colleen Bogan, Summershade Court. I'm here to give you my 32 cents on the budget, which ignores known public safety risks. Number one, I spoke to you last year about budgeting for the flood problems identified in the 2021 DEC Gott Creek flood study that explains the narrow town-owned Peanut Line Bridge as the cause for flooding in Amherst and Clarence. The town already operates a pumping system to remove water from nearby neighborhoods. The DEC says expect more water coming from Clarence in the future as Amherst develops. Again, there's nothing in the budget to address this problem, but included is a $3.5 million budget for a new trail on the Peanut Line from North Forest to Campbell Road, and we are already spending more for new trails at Paradise Park, 100 feet away from the flooding neighborhoods. The message that should be coming from this town board and legislators McMahon, Heastie, and Vinyl is that Amherst has a flooding problem, and we're not going to spend another red cent on trails anywhere in the town until it's fixed. The GBNRTC study for the Peanut Line that you should have in your vault is so flawed that it says there's no bridge over Hassauer Road, but there is one. It contains no budget for a Peanut Line bridge replacement the DEC says is necessary, nor piping to protect abutting residential properties. The study says that'll be figured out later. Placing public safety behind the desires of recreational bike riders is immoral. Lou Gehrig parking lot. You are well aware that there's a major public safety problem with a parking shortage at Lou Gehrig, caused in part by an outstanding town wetland violation found when you moved the baseball diamond there from Audubon. You closed a major portion of the existing parking lot. This has caused many of the thousands of families who use this site to park along very narrow Smith Road, which is not designed for this. Grandparents can no longer attend the games because there's no parking. You hired Wendell engineers to draft a great plan to remediate the wetland and repave the severely damaged lots. In 2004, you budgeted $2.4 million in the CIP to fix it, and the planning board approved it. But the project disappeared from the CIP in 2005, and the wonderful Wendell plan disappeared from your website. North Amherst Recreation Center. 2 years ago, I grabbed a railing going up their stairs only to see it move in my hand. The main entranceway steps have been falling apart for 5 years, according to your own facilities report. The town's response is to place orange cones on the crumbling steps. You have plastic particles at the Clearfield splash pad because the surface has disintegrated. I know you've budgeted for this, but it's not fixed yet. I stopped taking my toddler grandkids there so they won't swallow the plastic in the water. It's unhealthy. The budget includes $4.5 million to renovate North Forest Park, including a new meeting room, changing room, splash pad, and playground. 3 miles away, you're giving away a property that could easily house a new community center, winter market, playground, locker rooms, golf course, cross-country skiing, and perhaps renovated pool facilities. You just have to consider the possibility. In light of these public safety risks, I'm sorry to say this, the budget that prioritizes new facility spending over existing problems is irresponsible. And I'm here to ask you respectfully, please rethink this budget. Thank you.
Anybody else? No, thanks. I got it on the.
Jane Cox, Harlem Road. I just have a couple quick questions. Is the town board planning to vote up or down on this budget at the November 10th meeting, since that's the only meeting before the state deadline? Are you actually going to take a vote on the budget this year, or just let it pass with no expression of your stance? Also, my second question is, you said you were still taking comments on the budget. Are you planning on closing the hearing tonight? And if so, how long are you taking the comments until? What would be the deadline? And I was interested in that revenue page. I was wondering why highway showed such a large increase in revenue, a $760,000 projected increase in revenue for next year. It's on that page. And
Okay, well, when we get to that point.
You gonna
Okay,
answer?
when you're done, yeah,
I'm
okay.
done. Okay, and then I was curious as to where do we get revenue from cannabis from? That's it. Thank you.
So I would just to clarify, what happens with a supervisor's budget under town law is that on November 20th, it locks in as the budget. The board can amend it, right? So there are boards that have like voted down a budget. It doesn't mean anything. You could vote as a majority against the budget without an amendment. The budget would still go in as is. So just to clarify where we are with this, we're going to make sure we have any last amendments, incidental changes, those types of things that need to happen done for the 10th of November. So I would say probably would make sense to have comments until then. But you can comment on a budget irregardless, right? You can comment on budgetary practices throughout the calendar year. So, you know, I'm sure we'll still hear comments about budget. Budgets can always be amended and changed. And so, you know, so at the end of the day, the role of this board is basically decide, are there amendments or fundamental amendments it wants to make to the budget itself. Cannabis, I'm going to answer that, then I'm going to have Jen explain the highway again. Cannabis is specifically a tax collected on New York State licensed cannabis dispensaries. There's a portion of the sales tax that goes to local municipalities in which those dispensaries are located. That represents the sales tax on cannabis transactions. I suppose if there's manufacturing or growing and wholesale, that would also count towards that tax. And then Jen, highway? Oh. Sorry, you got to do that.
Hi, I am Jennifer Adams, the interim comptroller. If you look at the other section on the bottom, you could see that there's a $640,000 decrease. And then if you look at highway revenue, you could see there's a $760,000 increase. This year, I did the budget and, well, obviously with Brian. and I reclassified how the other category was shown. So anything that each department has, I tried to classify within that department. In highway, that you have salt revenue that we would sell to other municipalities. You have snow plowing, and you have CHIPS, which is state aid that we get for items such as paving and milling. So that is the reason why there's a difference between highway and other.
So, so we just signed are just authorizing our contract with Erie County for snow removal from county roads today in the agenda. We also, generally speaking, so Jen used to be an independent auditor that worked on the town with Dresser Malecki. She came on board as our deputy controller a couple year and a half, 2 years, 5 years, so 3 years, five, I don't know how many years, so it's 5.5 years ago. This year, when our controller Daryl Raymer retired his position, Jen's served as our interim, and she has, I think rightfully so, kind of identified other and miscellaneous items as lines that we'd like to clean up, so that we can accurately depict what's happening in each one of our revenue centers. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay. All right. Any further comments or questions? Sure. I can take on a couple of those questions. Look, regarding the flooding, we do a lot of work through our engineering department with recommendations on where we need to spend time on drainage and on sewer infrastructure. We have paving included in our annual budget, and we realize that we don't have to do Lou Gehrig's a standalone project. We can do it in portions. We still have some issues with DEC to clear up before we could even move forward with paving, but the Lou Gehrig parking lot is a concern and certainly something we'd like to see done. The Clearfield splash pad, as you mentioned, we do in fact have resurfacing schedule money available now, and we began that project or began the procurement for that following this open season. And regarding North Forest Pool, the pool is an asset. We have existing facilities there. This is the opportunity to invest in that asset. So that said, I'm going to motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
First, I'm going to motion to close public hearing
All right.
850 on the CIP program.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, I'll motion to close public hearing on resolution 851, Town of Amherst 2026 budget.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we do have a number of items, development review actions tonight. The first one, it shows up on our agenda, but it is adjourned to November 10, which is the resolution 702, an adoption of local law to amend the zoning map for 2577 Millersport Highway, Z 2025-02. So we'll continue to leave that adjourned. Do I need a new motion to adjourn again, or can I just let it sit? Okay, I'll motion to adjourn it to November 10.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's related to some conversations that we're having with resident groups in that area and the developer regarding screening. Next item on our agenda is Resolution 891. It's seeker determination on 2190 and 2220 Worley Drive, BCPA 2025-01. So we did ask for some extensive review of infrastructure systems around there. And I ask the representative council just to come up because there are some changes.
Don't I need to second it.
Well, I'm going to ask him to do the presentation as a resolution, so I'm going to ask
Yeah.
for a presentation first.
Okay.
Just what those changes include.
So yes, good evening Supervisor and members of the town board. Sean Hopkins on behalf of the applicant, Young Development. So this project has been subject to numerous previous meetings, including several meetings with nearby property owners. When we started the project back in late winter of this year, we were at approximately 370 multifamily units, and that included some larger buildings, including 4-story buildings. Ultimately, after meeting with the neighbors several times, we made some modifications, including most recently eliminating any building taller than 2 stories. So there will be nothing taller than 35 feet. 35 feet is the exact height that's permitted in the adjacent R3 zoning district to the east. I also want to note that we reduced the density again, so we went from about 370 to 375 to 200 to 330, and now we're down to 270 on the 24.3 acre project site. As a result of that change, and based on some discussions with the planning department, including Mr. Howard, we actually modified our request slightly. We were originally seeking medium residential classification pursuant to the comp plan. That allows 12 to 60 units per acre, very high density. However, based on the reduction, we're now seeking mixed residential, which is 4 to 12 units per acre, because we're now below the 12 units per acre. We've also entered into an agreement with Mr. Wisbaum, the owner of the adjacent multifamily complexes. As you recall, he expressed a lot of concerns through his counsel relative to the project. So he's actually signed an agreement in the nature of a contract that he agrees with everything we're doing in terms of not only the comp plan amendment, but all the remaining steps. So we think we've made a lot of progress. The final thing I want to note, and I believe there are a couple residents here this evening, there was concerns raised early on about the adequacy of water pressure, meaning if we proceed with this project, will there be adequate water demand? We consulted with the Erie County Water Authority and the town's engineering department. Pat Sheedy from Carmina Wood Design prepared a water demand report, updated that water demand report twice, and William Wheeler, who's an engineer from the Erie County Water Authority, did issue an email last week confirming, in their professional opinion, that we will have adequate water supply both for domestic and firefighting purposes. And we've summarized that in numerous correspondences with the town. I finally want to note that Deputy Supervisor Lavin did also provide us with a letter asking for more specific information about our goal of including workforce housing. I discussed that topic with Dave Manjoy of the IDA, and we did submit a detailed letter, but our goal remains the same as it was. 20% of the units within this project will consist of workforce housing priced accordingly pursuant to the town's IDA program. So we think we've made a ton of progress. We appreciate that many of the nearby neighbors have met with us again and again and again. And respectfully, at this point, we are asking you to issue a negative declaration and approve the comp plan amendment, which will allow us to proceed to the next step, which would be the potential rezoning of the project site from OB to MFR5.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So with that said, the first item on the agenda here of the two is the negative declaration on the seeker findings. And remind everybody, this is a negative declaration on seeker findings pursuant to a comprehensive plan amendment, not to a rezoning action. So I'm going to first motion to adopt the negative declaration as it appears.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item on the agenda then is the resolution 892, which is an adoption of a resolution to amend bicentennial comprehensive plan for 2190-2220 Worley Drive, BCPA 2025-01. I'm going to first motion the resolution as it appears.
Second.
And on the question, are there any questions or comments or conversation from the board?
I do, Supervisor. You just mentioned that there are some residents here, and I want to say thank you. I know I said it in the work session, but I'll say it again. I greatly appreciate your willingness to work with the residents around. I was, my original notes said this was my hard no until I read the communications in there, so I appreciate the efforts that you've put into this, but, would it be possible to hold a vote on this until after public expression if there are remaining residents that have?
Yeah, I don't
We
have
could
an
go on
I don't
to
have an issue doing that.
And it's not that.
I don't either.
Yeah, okay. That's what I would prefer, just if there are some people left to speak, because the last that we heard, I remember from the public hearing and reviewing my notes, there were residents who explicitly said that they would prefer an MFR5 over MFR6, which, Dan Howard and I had many conversations about what medium residential and mixed residential look like. So I appreciate that this makes me much happier than what we originally saw, but just to, because it is a change from the public hearing, I would appreciate that.
So there was a motion and a second. I'm going to withdraw my original motion for the purposes of, of hearing the first round of public expression. I don't think I
was
need a
the
second.
Seconder, so I'll agree to that.
Okay, great. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
So that brings us to public expression. So a motion to open public expression at this time.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have a list. Jerry DeCosmo. So Bonnie Berry, you were first. Did you? It was about, okay. So Jerry DeCosmo.
Good evening, Town Board members. I'm Jerry DeCosmo from Meyer Road. I wanted to address a comment that was made regarding the people who speak up at these meetings. In the Buffalo News, October 22nd, 2025, Mr. Lavin, you stated, and I quote, "I mean, I usually know the first and last name of everybody who speaks at the podium before they speak, which gives me a pretty strong indicator that they are there every meeting. ... And the people who come to yell at me, talk aggressively to me, are 14, 18, 22 people, right? There seems to be the misconception that because the same few people keep coming to this podium, that means only a handful of residents have concerns. I want to be clear, that's not the case. The people who stand here are the ones willing to speak publicly, but they represent a much larger group in this community who are frustrated, paying attention, and have lost confidence in how this board conducts business. The repetition of speakers doesn't show a lack of community interest. It shows that a few individuals have the courage to give voice to what many others are thinking. Dismissing those voices would be a serious mistake because behind each one stands dozens more who feel the same but choose not to step to the microphone. The board should take this as a warning, not as reassurance. And if you still don't believe there are many of us out there, just remember two words: musical fair. Thank you so much.
Tom Frank.
Good evening, Town Board members. My name is Thomas Frank, and I reside at 5403 Main Street. And I want to thank you for my 3 minutes to comment on the resolution 937 regarding the stormwater mapping project, Phase 2, Town of Amherst, job number 2023.025A. CRS number 5898. That what's very important is it has to do with the Glen Park Joint Board and the Amherst State Park, and as well as the Willow Dale, the Westwood Pharmaceutical Country Club Golf Course. That these are all, Ellicott Creek is the lifeblood of the town of Amherst, and the Amherst Central Park Greenway is part of a statewide. They just had their conference on the 17th in regarding the statewide parks, trails, and historic preservation. And Ellicott Creek is a part of that, the Niagara Greenway. That the and what was suggested by the planning department in the town was that the plan the comprehensive all-inclusive master bicentennial plan for the village of Williamsville and the town of Amherst, going back to 2010 and 2015. The suggestion was that what was in this plan should be included in the comprehensive update of the plan in the village. As far as the interconnection along the Ellicott Creek watershed, and it extends, it's a part of the relicensing of the Niagara Power Project as far as the $450 million that they allocated to mitigate the cumulative negative impact of the power project on the watershed. And you're a part of it. Ellicott Creek is, and that was in the plan. And what was suggested is that the plan that they're going to be meeting next week, that it be included as far as the connection, a demonstration project as far as the Glen Park Joint Board as the lead agency. We're talking about a 5-year, $10 million underwriting capitalization of a plan that's going to have between 250 and a $500 million economic impact on the region.
Thanks, Tom.
I'm looking forward to collaborating, and it includes the
Mr. Frank, respectfully, your time's up.
Oh, my
Thank
time's
you.
up. The Environmental Education Center in the state park.
There's other speakers, but thank you.
You're welcome. Thank
Okay.
you.
Adam Carl.
Good evening, Adam Carl, 305 Bellingham Drive. I'm actually pretty pleasantly surprised that there's been some positive changes for the Worley Drive project for the surrounding residents. One concern I still have reading through some of the materials that were posted for the meeting tonight was the water pressure node table that's in there, that 9 of the 11 nodes fall under 40 PSI, which is the recommended for PSI for appliances, household appliances, and then takes on a firefighting aspect as well. This water pressure issue spans beyond the current project that's at hand, but I truly, as a resident, firefighter, and as a neighbor, feel like this issue needs to get taken care of before this project needs to move forward. It's great that, yes, they're going to put a booster pump on their property. And again, I've said they've been more than accommodating to change some things, move it from a medium residential to a mixed residential, which they've removed about 100 units from the property, moved the property back, especially for the Bellingham residents, kept the Bellingham, the screening that's there, all great things, reduce the height, all the stuff that we've added or asked for. The last ask is to take care of the water pressure. Supervisor Culpa, you mentioned in a previous meeting, this has been an ongoing thing through your entire term as supervisor. The residents and firemen of that area just would like some sort of action taken. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Anything further? All right. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed Kay Cesario.
Good evening, town board members. I have a comment on the upcoming ratification of the AHEA contract that is resolution.
Address, please.
Kelsey, Hopkins Road. Resolution 2025-920. A written request from a dues-paying member of the AHEA was received by the Amherst Highway Union Vice President for a recount, and the union chose to ignore that request. Until that recount is held, it would be advisable that you table the approval of the CBA in order to conduct business following Robert's Rules of Order. The union board willfully ignored that request and pushed the contract to be voted upon tonight. Robert's Rules of Order states, recounts halt other actions. A motion to reconsider cannot be made while the assembly is engaged in counting or verifying a vote. Therefore, if a recount has been requested, the process must be completed before any further action, such as ratification, can take place. I urge you to table a consent agenda for Resolution 2025-920 for the Amherst Highway Employee Association CBA ratification until the November 12th apologies, November 10th, regular meeting of the town board. You as a board speak to following the rules set forth by the different governing bodies with whom you deal with. Please set an example for all town residents, each employee of the town of Amherst, and their individual governing union boards by tabling tonight's proposed resolution. Tabling the resolution would not negatively affect the 2026 budget. You, our own town board, are the leadership of this town and tell us that you hold yourselves to the highest of standards. Take the lead tonight and table this vote until November 10th. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Anybody else?
Therese Berry, Thistle Lee. I want to echo the sentiment of Jerry, who spoke about the Buffalo News article, which I also read and thought it was kind of, I don't know, awful. We're here because our kids are supervising homework and showers and making lunches. We're not, my neighbors are elderly. I talk with them. They've got issues. They sign petitions. They do all these things. They just can't get here on a Monday evening. We're representing tens, hundreds of people. And I'd like us not to be dismissed. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Matt Plunkett, North Hill Drive. I was saddened to hear tonight that Charlie Zipparelli passed away. When I was here, again, 20 years ago or so, he was the right-of-way agent, and I sometimes found myself working with him on different kinds of projects. And he was a good guy. He was fun to work with, and he was always a gentleman, and it's kind of sad to see him go like that. Second thing, prior speaker mentioned Musical Fair Theater. I'm going to mention it as well, not quite in the same context. I found myself there, I think it was last Friday night, for play Come From Away. And you know, if you haven't seen it, I think it's running through November 9th or something like that. Try to get down there to see it. It's really, really good. It really is. But the theater's great. I mean, they've done a major rehab of it even since the end of last season. I understand they put something like $5 million into it. And, you know, that it's a regional asset, and that was $5 million of regional money, unlike the plan for here that the taxpayers of Amherst would spend $11 million on what was essentially a regional project. So I think it worked out better that way. The theater's great. The play's great. If you get the chance, try to get down there to get it. And the final thing I want to say is Councilmember Marinaccio, that was pretty cool tonight. That was, was she 8? 8, oh, for God's sakes. 20 years from now, she'll be sitting there with some young man, and she'll pull that out and say, see what the Town of Amherst board did for me? That really was cool. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right, I'm going to motion to close public expression. All in favor?
Aye.
Now I'm going to motion resolution 892, which is the adoption of resolution to amend the bicentennial comprehensive plan for 2190 to 2220 Worley Drive.
Second.
PA 2025-01.
Second.
All right, on the question, gonna just acknowledge that, yes, I understand there to still be water pressure issues in that area. I don't believe that first of all, this is a comprehensive plan amendment. So by telling the community that is a comprehensive plan that we would like 4 to 12 units per acre, I think is the ratio, then that should indicate what level of interest we have, not only in that land, but in making sure that we have the right water pressures and the right water supply in that area. So I actually think that moving the project in through its comprehensive plan amendment is a good idea. And through the rezoning process, there'll have to be more conversations between the town and the water authority directly related to that subject. So with that said, I don't know if I need, or can we just do a straight vote?
You already have a motion.
Yeah. Okay,
and a
so
second.
motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you, and Adam, if you're still here, thanks for that comment. I don't know if he is still here. The next item on the agenda is our consent agenda. I'm going to ask our town clerk to please read tonight's consent agenda.
Second.
Supervisor,
Why we voted to
Yeah.
to read it, but
Yeah, I don't
go
know
ahead,
what
please
happened.
read the consent agenda.
Supervisor Copa, 1, Town Attorney, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Town Clerk, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Controller, 1, 2, Contract Compliance, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, Economic Development, 1, Engineering, 1, 2, Human Resources, 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, Planning, 1, 2, 3, 4, Senior Services, 1, 2, 3, 4, Sewer Plant, 16, 1, 2, 3, 4, Youth and Rec, 2, 3, 4. Communications, 1 referred to attorney and planning, 2 referred to attorney and planning, 3 referred to attorney, 4 referred to attorney, 5 referred to attorney, 6 referred to attorney, 7 referred to attorney, and 8 referred to attorney. Thank you.
Okay, a motion to adopt the consent agenda. All in favor? Aye. Next resolution on the agenda is Resolution 919, the Amherst Employees Association Incorporated Collective Bargaining Agreement 2025 to 2029. That union has ratified. I'm going to motion to adopt the bargaining agreement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Given the question brought to us in public expression, I'm going to motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of contacting our labor council and HR director.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll come back. Just to be clear, the Amherst Highway Employee Association Incorporated's collective bargaining agreement is on our agenda tonight. It was ratified on Friday. We're going to just adjourn to executive session, come back out with a decision.
little hunger.
Okay, so we adjourned executive session. We're returning to the regular agenda. The next item on the, so our executive session. Okay, our executive session is related to Resolution 920. We did have our HR Director, Bob McCarthy, as well as our attorney present for that discussion. So next item on the agenda is Resolution 920, the Amherst Highway Employees Association Incorporated Collective Bargaining Agreement 2025 to 2029. I'm going to first motion the resolution as it appears.
Second.
And with that, I'm going to ask our town attorney to please chime in with his opinion.
I will, and I thank you. So we have been advised that there were 4 revotes on this matter, and that the voting was 58.
Recounts. It was recounts, not revotes.
I'm sorry, recounts. I'm sorry. 58 to 35, and that the union council was present for all proceedings, and that this has been ratified by the union. And as a result of that, with my understanding of the law, it is my opinion that this board has an obligation and should exercise its right to ratify this.
All right, so there's a motion and a second. Is there any questions on the topic? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item on the agenda is the second round of public expression. I'll motion to open that at this time.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Gina Gentry, Bissell Drive, Amherst. I wanted to come tonight to speak about, obviously, I know that we're getting in the election season, but even talking about the highway contract, just hearing the fact that you guys don't actually take into consideration what they do and that they have a 0% raise, and you're okay with that as a town board, that just shows you where your value is. These are people that get the calls on Christmas Eve, on Christmas Day, when they have to leave their families at night. You don't get those calls. You don't have to go out and plow the streets, but you're sitting comfy in your chair. You just approved something that took away, they're not going to be able to afford life, because the way that their raises are going, from what I'm understanding from people that have called me, and the way that they have to increase their health care costs, they're going to be paying more out of pocket for health care, which is going to lessen their paychecks. And you're giving them a cost of living, which is 1% maybe, and that's not even, you're not able to sustain on that in this economy now. You just voted to actually hurt the people that are doing the work while you sit there. Number one. Number two, their highway garage, if you saw on Facebook, I shared it, is leaking water. Where's our money going when we can't even take care of the people that are taking care of us? Again, playgrounds I brought up last year, none of them have been fixed. None of them. Levin, you've said, oh, playgrounds are my thing. You're building all these new playgrounds, but you're not fixing what is done. Your campaign is based on what? Going to the Buffalo News and stating that people are volunteering with the opponent and they have some sort of history, going on and telling us that we're yelling at you, instead of basing it on what you're going to do for this town. I don't care that you have the backing of all these people that are endorsing you. That means nothing. You haven't said what you're going to do to fix the problems that I've even brought to you. And for all of you that are sitting on the town board, I don't want to hear or see anything on Facebook, the last thing I'll say, about supporting the police. Because every single one of you, I guarantee if you go in your voter records, you have voted for the people in New York State that have put this bail reform in place, that have made our towns unsafe and our children at risk. There are so many car thefts, there are so many people. There was just a woman on Union Road killed. I know that's out of Amherst. You have voted for these people because they're on the Democratic line. You have been the ones that have put our police in harm's way. All because you can't step out of your political box and vote for somebody that's going to put better policies in place.
Anybody else? Seeing none, I'm going to motion to close public.
Supervisor, if I may. I do want to make clear what we heard today because I do take very seriously what we do for town employees and what's going on. So no, it's not accurate that there's 0% raises in the contract. We discussed in executive session, the contract will be public. It's also clear from what we were told and what we confirmed in executive session that more than 60% of the highway employees that are represented and in this CBA have voted for it. So with an overwhelming majority, if somebody won an election by 64%, that would be, to me, a
Excuse me, you are out of order.
I think what needs to be made clear is that, again, won't speak for my colleagues, but what is important to me is that I understand what it is that I'm voting for and what it is that has been presented to me. So when an overwhelming majority of people who will be represented by this bargaining agreement have voted in support of it, then that has made enough for me to go forward there. So no, it's not 0%. There are lump sums, there are percentage rates going up. I'm not going to say it, Jackie, but they will be public. It's not a big deal. And the phased-in health insurance percentage increases don't start or phase in over time to equal the rest of what the town employees already pay. So it's not an additional cost to them than other employees. It's just one different way. There are offsets in all sorts of contract negotiations. That's what happens. But because it was ratified by over 60% of the members of this union, I felt confident in voting for it. And I think it is important that we make sure, when we're making accusations or we're asking for things, that the diligence that is done by those council members and what we're doing is also acknowledged.
Chris Rangoski, Mill Street. If I heard correctly, I thought the union members ratified this agreement. So they're happy with it, or they wouldn't have ratified it. So the last speaker's argument, I think, is pretty weak. But, and regarding a reform bill, that's a state issue. I mean, it's not a town issue. We can yell and scream all we want, but if it doesn't resonate in Albany, it's not going to change. And there's nothing any of the five of you can do up here to do that other than to say we want change. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom.
Good evening. My name is Thomas Frank, and I'd like to comment on the town of Amherst State Park as far as an opportunity there for an intermunicipal cooperation agreement having to do with the boiler house that's been vacant for like 20 years. And as far as recommendation for it, and you're going to be doing the assessment of the stormwater mapping project. That area is a stormwater area. And what's suggested is using the Rhinestone Woods model as an environmental education center in the Amherst State Park, which will be part of the Amherst Central Park Greenway, which is a part of the Niagara Watershed Greenway. And it's also part of the statewide system, the Hudson Valley Greenway and the Erie Canal National Heritage Corridor and the Genesee Valley Greenway. That the Ellicott Creek out here is, and is what's going on with the county with the the Willowdale. It goes into Tonawanda Creek and Ellicott Creek, and it has national historic significance where you're sitting. There were 4 wars that were here over this territory. This was a French territory. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Okay, anybody else?
I'm back. I just wanted to call you guys out.
Your name?
Kelsey Cesario, Hopkins Road.
Thank you.
The fact that you say that we're paying the same as other town employees is incorrect. The Amherst Police pay $1,400 this year for a family plan. In 2028, it will go up to $1,900. With our increase, our union members are going to be paying more than that in the first quarter of the year. Our raises are not a raise this year. The lump sum of 1.5% that you all offered doesn't even cover half of inflation. The police were given 3.5, 4.25, 4.5, and 4.75 over 4 years. It is constantly thrown in our face that we are not the police. No, we're not. That's why we don't walk in the door making $35 an hour. They are already doubling our salaries by their 4th year. Very simply, I get it. We're not the cops. But why are every other union in the town getting crap for raises, whether it's CSEA, AHEA, AEA? Why do we not, as a town, have the same percentages for health insurance across the board? Why do we not get the same raises across the board? It's already shown 4.75% on an officer making $69 an hour is more than 4.75% as a laborer at the highway department making, I believe they'll start at $18 an hour with this new contract. I could flip burgers for less responsibilities. I wouldn't have to come in and plow all winter long, be away from my family, others be away from their families, and yet here you are saying, oh, it wasn't 0%. A 1.5% lump sum, given the rate of inflation, is insane. Social Security got a higher increase than we got as a lump sum payment for the year. Thank you.
Anybody else? Seeing none, I'm going to motion to close public expression.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We do have one suspension item this evening. I'm going to motion to leave our rules or our agenda for purposes of hearing a suspension item.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you, Supervisor. So we have a suspension for the town board. This is in reference to correspondence from Sean Hopkins to the town board for 4300 Millersford Highway, Town Board 2025-93. That was on the town board agenda for September 30th, whereas also regarding resolution 2024-675, the resolution of commitment to accept future public improvements, which was on the August 19th, 2024 town board agenda. The town board gives consent, the town attorney to create a value and authorize the supervisor to enter in such agreement pending the town attorney's approval, action, and agreement. And I so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
A motion to return to regular agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn the board meeting. Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.